It's News Talk 580 1059 KMJ. Welcome to the Marc Kapetan Show. This is attorney Marc Kapetan, your host. Today's show is brought to you by the Kapetan Brothers Law Firm. We've been serving the Central Valley since 1995. If you or anybody you know has been injured in an auto accident, a truck accident, or a motorcycle accident, give us a call at 559-498-8000. Or if you've been arrested or cited for a criminal offense, call us at the Kapetan Brothers. The Kapetan Brothers, 559-498-8000. We'll ease all your concerns. We'll answer all your questions. Kapetan Brothers, 559-498-8000. We are the Valley's law firm. Hey, folks, in every state in the Union, in every city in America, in every neighborhood in the Central Valley, there is a fair share of Italian restaurants. And most of us have our favorite or two. Fresno's the same. If I said to all of you friends out there, what is your favorite Italian restaurant? You would all have an answer immediately. As a kid, a meatball sandwich was my go-to. There's nothing better than a meatball sandwich to me. And if there was chicken parm on the menu, chicken parmesan or veal scallopini, or a bruschetta, you know, obviously that's a kid's favorite and one of my favorites. If we're really talking about brass tacks, Marcella, if we're talking about brass tacks, what is your, Marcella, let's ask Marcella. Marcella, you're on death row and you have to have your final meal. What is it? Steak. Okay, see? Hey, just believe me. Poor Blake out there. It's steak, the most expensive thing on the menu. Me, it's spaghetti and meatballs. I've said that for 40 years. If I'm on death row, my last meal is spaghetti and meatballs. I love it. I love it. My next guest comes from a family with generations in the restaurant business, in the Italian restaurant business. He has received a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Fresno chapter of the California Association of Restaurateurs. He recognizes that the community supports these families that run these Italian restaurants, and the restaurants in turn support the community. In that regard, my next guest, quote unquote, thanks the community for supporting his restaurant, but also thanks the community for supporting the generations of his family in the restaurant business. So I would like to welcome to the Marc Kapetan Show from Mike's Pizzeria, one of my favorites in Fresno, Petter Di Nunzzo. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on the show.
Hey, I love it. Listen, Mike's became our go-to, man. We were there after judo with my buddy Richard E. Mamora and my buddy Paul Turner, my English buddy. We were there, I think, every Tuesday. No, we had judo on Monday, Wednesdays, and sometimes Fridays.
I think it was Wednesdays, and you guys were called the judo guys. The judo guys are here.
Really?
Yeah. The kitchen would say the judo guys are here. Came in a little late, but they were always waiting for you.
You know what? I forgot about that, Marcelo. So our judo got out at 8:30, but after warm downs and all that kind of stuff, it was about 9 o'clock that we would start making a mad dash for Mike's Pizzeria, and we would call them, and they'd say, "Yeah, we're going to stay open for you."
Yep.
That's right, and we'd have to put in our orders. Who's the chef back there?
Well, besides myself, Abel has been with me for a while.
That's yeah, great guy.
And and also there's several others, of course, that are helping, and they all knew about the judo guys. Oh, they're coming in, so they they kept it open.
Literally in our judo gis, in our judo pants, and our sweat. I mean, we were all sweating.
Just coming back from the gym, basically.
Yep. We loved it, man. How long? Mike's Pizzeria for how long now?
Well, 62 years since 1962.
Wow, no kidding. 62 years.
Yeah. Three generations worth, really.
Dad started it all?
Mom and Dad started it in 1962. So I was born in 61, and I've been there my whole life.
We were talking before the show about your granddaughter. We'll talk a little bit more about your son and granddaughter later, but I had a cousin in Chicago that had a diner. And one day I walked in because I said, I want to work. If I'm going to visit you in Chicago, I want to work in the diner. And on the cash register table was a little, what do they call it, bassinets, right?
Yeah.
With my little niece. And you same thing with you. You grew up in the restaurant, huh?
Literally, yeah. We had sitters when we were really young. My parents got sitters for us, and it just wasn't working. Even though they were right around the corner from the restaurant, it just complication after complication. And finally, my dad said he made a decision and said, "That's it. We're just taking the kids to work with us."
Wow.
And so they started doing that. Of course, we didn't know. We were that young. And my mom still says today, she goes, she feels terrible because we would sleep down there. We got tired, and we'd find a spot and just go hang out. My parents had a loft. In this place where they got started, and man, it was great.
Wait, where did they get
started? Across the street, so in that shopping center adjacent to the liquor store. My dad opened.
Where they're at right now?
Yeah, no, across the street. So
but I'm saying in that same corner. So it's on Weston Shields. Weston Shields, Mike's Pizzeria.
Yeah, so they were on the Northwest Shopping Center.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and my dad opened up the takeout pizza place. Italian food and pizza, and the landlord at the time owned the bar next door. So they started serving food to the bar, and they had that relationship going on.
Oh,
and so
I know
finally,
that little bar. Yeah.
The landlord said, "Hey, you know what? I'm getting out of this, and you need to buy it." And my dad was like, "Well, I don't know anything about the bar business." He goes, "That's simple. You're already serving food in there."
Right.
So that's what he did. So he took the place over, and it became Mike's Pizzeria and then Mike's Lounge. And so had that going on along with delivery, and eventually just he needed more room. He outgrew it. The parking was terrible there. And so that's when he purchased the building that we're in now currently.
Across the street there.
And eventually opened up, Mike's Pizzeria, as everyone knows it today. Restaurant, takeout, lounge.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a mixture of everything there.
Yeah, boy, I tell you have a great setup because you do have the restaurant, but my go-to was always to go to the lounge. Even when I go to some of the other restaurants in town, I always say, hey, is there tables at the bar? Not at the bar itself. I don't want to sit there necessarily.
Yeah.
But I love that activity. So you have that nice, slower family side. And then you have the side that many times is also family oriented, but sometimes gets pretty raucous too as a bar.
Right.
Too.
It could be noisy depending if there's games that are on being aired. The music, different choices of music can change the environment or the atmosphere.
But I love it just because I love any restaurant, Marcelo, that has red leather or vinyl or whatever booths. I love that old school booth. Yeah. Oh, that's
people
great.
Really, they're excited about that look. And to me, it's boring. I've seen it forever and ever, but they come in and they go, "Oh yeah, this is how I remember it." They're really excited about seeing it
that's
that way.
because not only the restaurant, but you have become classic, Peter. It's that classic look of that old lounge thing with those red booths in it and everything.
Well, now I'm old enough too to match the furniture. So
that's what I'm saying. You're classic too. Yeah, exactly. 62 purely Italian food. Is it family recipes?
Yeah, basically.
I mean, every Italian person says that. Is it really a family recipe?
Well, my grandfather had a restaurant here in Fresno.
Which one?
Italian Village on Fresno Street in Belmont. And he bought it from I think there was an existing Italian restaurant there. So he bought it from a gentleman, and he ran his restaurant for several years.
Who was your grandfather?
Well, our grandfather was Antonio Di Nunzzo. Okay. So that was my dad's dad.
Right.
And he had the restaurant. My uncles my dad's uncle had Luigi's restaurant, Italian restaurant.
Of course, I knew that.
We had a lot of family in the restaurant business. So recipes, my parents were raised on a farm in Italy. They made everything from scratch.
Right.
Everything was homemade.
Naples, right?
Yeah, near Naples. Yeah, small town near Naples.
And so Napoli, blah, 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 blah. So that's right. Yeah. Where's Pat LaRocca to sing the song for us? Yeah. So and they made everything fresh, and they took those. Did they have recipes? We didn't. My grandmother was Greek. We didn't have recipes.
It's just not like an index card, that they were reading from. It was just more of they knew how to do things.
They knew how to do it,
and they were taught, and that was taught to us the same way. Of course, traditions have changed.
Yeah,
we'll still make homemade sausage and dry it outside, which is kind of like a salami. In the cold winter. Certain things like that my parents still do today, or jarred the homemade tomatoes,
right,
things like that.
So you did all that kind of stuff as a kid.
Growing up, yeah.
We are on with Petter Di Nunzzo from Mike's Pizzeria, one of my go-tos. We'll be right back after this on the Marc Kapetan Show. This is KMJ. This is KMJ at KMJNow.com or wherever you stream. Welcome back to the Marc Kapetan Show. I think I forgot to say that on the first segment. Folks, I'm going to pop this music down and talk to you here for a little bit. Kapetan Brothers, listen, if you have been arrested or cited for a criminal offense, or more importantly, if you've been in an accident, a lot of people think of the Kapetan Brothers as a criminal defense firm, but we've been doing accident cases for, 30-something years now. So if you've been in an accident, call the Kapetan Brothers. It's a very, very scary time. It's a very trying time. It's one of those things where you're not only in pain physically, but a lot of times people are suffering emotionally because of the pain, because of the worry, because of the stress. They don't know what they're going to do. They're out of work temporarily. And we have a lot of answers. We've done this for a very, very long time. We've won millions of dollars for our clients. And a lot of times it may not be about the money as much as it is about easing the concerns of people and letting them know that everything's going to be okay and we have their back and that we could get some recovery, some basically money, because obviously that's what the name of the game is when it comes to insurance and accidents and injuries, is making a person whole, making them feel like this accident never occurred, or maybe it didn't affect them as much as they thought it affected them when they first got into that accident. So if you have those type of concerns, or if you have a friend, do your friend a favor, do yourself a favor, call the Kapetan Brothers at 559-498-8000, Kapetan Brothers. All right, we are on with one of my favorite guys to go see because he works at an Italian, or he owns an Italian restaurant. Petter Di Nunzzo from the Di Nunzzo family dynasty of restaurants. Mike's Restaurant there on Shields and West, a place I've been going to for approximately 25 years now. So, Peter, you were talking about the family back in old Napoli, as they say in Italy, Naples, and cooking their own foods and making their own stuff fresh. Did you learn? I learned how to make fresh pasta a little while ago. Did you learn all that stuff? Did Mom teach you that stuff, Dad? Who was the cook in the family back in the day?
Well, both my parents, in fact, when my mom tells the story, they got together, they were sharing ideas of what they each knew how to make. You know, my mom was big on this lasagna. She goes, hey, I know how to do this lasagna. My dad said I can make these, and back and forth, and the pizza, and they created a menu of things that they knew how to make. There really wasn't foods available back then that you can purchase. So it was just, if you were cooking, it was, pretty much home cooked and authentic. So we learned those recipes from my parents. Technique.
How old was your dad when he came over? When did he come over?
Well, he came over when he was 13.
Okay, so they didn't get together back there. They got together here.
They knew each other, and then my dad went back to Italy at 18 and married my mom.
Oh, really?
And then came back. Yeah.
Oh, so your dad was the first one here. Mom was just a girl from the old country, basically.
Right.
No kidding, and brought her back.
Yep.
Oh, that's just a sweet tale, man.
Yeah.
It's so much part of Americana too, that the man comes and he brings the girl back. Were they boyfriend and girlfriend back there?
No, I think it was more. It wasn't so much boyfriend girlfriend. They just knew of each other.
Yeah,
and there
always
was no
had his eye
courting.
on that girl.
Yeah, and of course they knew the families. You know.
Mom was what's her last maiden name?
She was a DeSantis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she worked at the restaurant with Dad all those years?
Well, then they came over and they had different jobs. My mom did work at a Rossi's when she first got here. That was an Italian restaurant.
Okay.
For a short period of time. Yeah. My aunt was there. So different jobs. And then finally, my dad was working at Luigi's Italian restaurant.
Right.
And so they decided, we're going to open up a takeout place. And that's how they got started.
And they each had these favorite recipes of theirs that they said, I know how to make this, you know how to make this. And were they both cooks back in the day?
Well, growing up,
I'm saying when they started the restaurant.
Oh, they were cooking. They were hands-on.
Right.
Yeah.
Cook, sales, everything. They did it all, just the two of them, basically?
Basically, almost with no employees. I forget. They started hiring some help as they went along.
Yeah.
Things got busier and, more difficult. But then at that point, they can afford to bring on some help. And but they were always hands-on. And still today, we're hands-on.
Yeah.
A lot of it was with the prep. The prep work is so much bigger because the food is all homemade. Once it's made, now we can cook it.
So are you doing your own pastas and everything?
Yeah, homemade pastas.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I read somewhere where you guys had some fancy new ravioli machine that you got?
Exactly, yeah. So we were making raviolis by hand, which is ridiculous because it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, it's fun to make them for the holidays or for the family.
Right.
You could make a day of it, no problem, and have a good time. But when you have to do that on a daily basis, it's way too much.
How long ago did you get this ravioli machine?
Well, we've had a couple different machines.
Okay, so you did modernize longer than just a few years ago.
We started expanding that probably late, mid-'80s. Started getting into some of the
But still,
equipment.
think about that. They were doing 18 years maybe without modern equipment. They were just doing it all by hand.
Yeah.
Wow.
And, cooking a pot of sauce on the stove is pretty difficult for the volume that you need to do.
Right.
And so getting the right equipment can really change how the product,
like
end
how
result.
big is the pot? Is it a 40-gallon pot, 30-gallon?
It's an 80-gallon pot.
It's an 80-gallon pot.
But it's a steam kettle, so this thing cooks from top to bottom. So it's not just a burner at the bottom that's heating this sauce. It's totally surrounding the body of sauce and just cooking it evenly.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so having the right equipment is really a big help.
By the way,
pasta machine.
Okay, so I go there, and especially when it was after judo, because we had just worked out 2.5 hours basically. I'd go there, and it was great because you worked out and you could have as much pasta as you want. You never gained weight because you were doing judo all the time, right? But I would go there and we would order whatever meals we would have, but we were so hungry. We'd say, listen, bring some of your bread because they got great bread over there, and bring some of the meat sauce. And I would just have a big bowl of meat sauce, and I'd be eating that with bread, waiting for my meal to come because I love their sauce. It's great.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, you're a kid, you're with mom and dad, they're cooking at the restaurant all day. Do they also come home and cook dinner at home, or are you now just eating at the restaurant every night?
It would vary, they would change things. It wasn't, I know that's one of the big questions that people have. Yeah. It's like, do you go home and cook after cooking all day? Or I love to do that. I love to go home and cook, but after working all day, that's the last thing I want to do is go home and start a meal. Number one, it's too late, but I enjoy making different dishes, trying different foods.
Will you do other stuff other than Italian food when you go home?
Yeah, okay. I'll try different foods. Yeah, different.
Okay. When you were growing up, and whether it's at the restaurant or at the thing, are you standing by mom and dad's side, watching them? Like I could, Marcella, I could picture my grandmother taking a handful of oregano or a pinch of this or pinch of that, because everybody says, that this is a great meal because I'll cook for friends. It's a great meal. Do you have a recipe? I'll go, no. Well, how much, whatever, oregano, salt, how much? I go, I don't know. I just always remember that hand reaching into something and pulling out a pinch or a handful or whatever, and rub, doing this with the hands and rubbing the hands together and bringing out the essence of the dried oregano or whatever. Same thing with you. Is it all
just watching my parents, helping them at the same time, and they'd give you side jobs. Hey, maybe peel these onions and chop them or slice them or whatever we were doing. So, it was like components of cooking, different parts. Not necessarily at 10 years old you're making a batch of sauce, but you might be there for the whole process of watching and knowing and helping them along the way. And so eventually you just learn it.
It's second nature.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's funny making a fresh pasta. I saw the measurements and stuff like that, and I was like, and then all of a sudden you just, again, going back to my grandmother, even though I'm not Italian, I was Greek, we never made fresh pastas, but you sort of throw stuff in there, you go, it's a little too wet, you instantly know, add a little more flour, you add a little more oil, or add whatever.
Consistency.
And it just becomes one of those things where it became very easy just to make a fresh pasta, just because most people are afraid of it. They want to see the recipe, right?
I was going to say that a lot of times people they're afraid of it because they don't know. And when you only have one shot at it, it's pretty difficult. But we're doing this on a daily basis that you perfect it. You can just look at it and see what it needs, or you know, it's kind of like listening to an engine. You know, you can just hear it, and some of these guys will know what it needs or what's wrong. You know,
you just hear it purr. I love that that comparison. We are on with Petter Di Nunzzo from Mike's Pizzeria. We'll be right back after this on the Marc Kapetan Show. This is KMJ. This is KMJ at KMJnow.com or wherever you stream. Hey, folks, if you're looking for a great Italian meal, you want to know my go-to place? You know, I'm going to get Pat LaRocca mad. I love going to Five. I love going to see Maria Schola over there at Tony's. But my go-to, if I'm looking just for just that great, authentic Italian meals, Mike's Pizzeria on Shields and West. Mike's Pizzeria. I love even the chicken salads. If you're looking to lose a little weight, the chicken salad's great, but I love the combinations. The lasagna is great over there. That's from your mom, right?
Yep.
Right, Peter? From Mom. Her recipe, Mike's Pizzeria. What's the number over there? Do you do reservations, by the way?
We can, sure.
Okay.
It's not recommended, but
takeout for what's the number for takeout?
559-229-2635.
559-229-2635. Mike's Pizzeria. I love it. All right, folks. I also have to thank somebody here. By the way, Blake Taylor, Marcella's husband, brought us a bottle of wine for today's show because he says, you're going to have an Italian restaurant owner on. I'm going to get you a bottle of wine. So we are having a bottle of bread and butter. But I also want to thank our buddy Dale Mell. Dale Mell is part of the KMJ staff. And I asked him to go to Lodi and buy me a bottle of wine. I gave him some money to buy a bottle of wine. And he comes back not only with a bottle of great Zinfandel from Lodi, but also the $100 that I gave him was returned to me because the owner, Yvonne Shin from Block 21, I'm going to hold this up so everybody could see it on the video. Go to YouTube and Facebook and all that kind of stuff and check out our video of the today's show. Yvonne Shin from Block 21 in Lodi gave us a bottle of Zinfandel. So Yvonne, I appreciate it. I thank you so much. And I'm going to go home and try this out with a very special meal. I'll report back to you guys. I'm sure it's the greatest because Lodi has the greatest Zinfandels ever. And so Yvonne Shin from Block 21, I appreciate it. Thanks. All right, we are back on with Petter Di Nunzzo from Mike's Pizzeria. Peter, speaking about recipes and great stuff, you have a pizza that has, Marcella, check this out, mustard on it. Where in the heck does that come from?
You know, that was just a craving I had. I was thinking, you know, when the fair comes to town, everyone's always talking about the corn dogs and things like that. And I used to make a bread with mustard and salami and cheese, which kind of had that corn dog flavor. And I thought, wow, that's interesting how that happens. And I would always hear recipes where they would smear yellow mustard on ribs before you cook them, you know, to bind it for seasoning and things like that. And when you do that, you never even really taste the mustard, which I thought was kind of unusual. So,
but it does have a little bit of a kick to it that you don't expect, sort of.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of heat there, you know, from the mustard. But so I was just kind of playing around with it, and I thought, you know, I made this bread, and so, you know, I was passing that around because it's an attention getter.
Yeah,
people hear that just like what you're saying.
Yeah.
Can you believe it that we got a pizza with mustard on it? So then I took it a step further and made a pizza with salami, pepperoni, and some Canadian bacon. So kind of those meats. I wouldn't suggest mustard with any pizza. But
well, wait a minute, hold on.
Topping.
Hold on. It's literally on your menu, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
I wouldn't suggest it. You're literally suggesting it.
Well, when I say that, meaning you have to be careful what kind of toppings I think that you're going to mix.
I see what you mean.
Mix with mustard, so you have to be careful with that.
Well, I got to say, half the people were like, I don't know.
Exactly.
And then half of them loved it. I loved it. I thought it was...
We have another one. It's a blue Hawaiian, which is Canadian bacon, jalapeno, dry blue cheese.
Pineapple?
Pineapple, yep.
Listen.
And without a sauce.
Okay.
So, very unique flavors.
Okay. You're pure Italian, right? Mom and dad, both sides.
Right.
Pineapple on pizza?
Yeah, I know that would never fly.
Yeah, right?
But again, my mom told me to try this recipe probably 25, 30 years ago.
With the blue Hawaiian.
Just try it. She goes, I'm curious what what's going to taste like. Maybe not exactly those ingredients, but to have pineapple, jalapeno, and that blue cheese was just really interesting flavors. And so, I mean, it worked out great.
I'll tell you, I'm sorry, because I'm Greek and I'm not Hawaiian. I mean, Italian, but the Hawaiian pizza is my favorite. I mean, I think it's you guys with your blue Hawaiian. Anesso's has and I hope you don't mind me talking about these other restaurants because it's all one big community, you know, and we're going to talk about that. Anesso's with their spicy Hawaiian. You know, I love all that kind of stuff. I love the sweetness with the tomato sauce and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, you sold me on all that kind of stuff. All right. Explain to everybody what this connection is between the Nunzos, the Chicos. We talked about everybody has their favorite, and I'm sure you don't mind when a person says, oh, you know, the Chicos and this, that. The Chicos, La Rocca's, Julia's, 5 restaurant, Parma, which is Northern Italian from what I understand. I love it. What's the connection in the families? Is there a connection between the Di Nunzos and the rest of these families?
Well, there is a connection with a lot of the Italian
Tony's,
restaurants.
by the way, Maria Scholl, I mentioned. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So that's my cousin.
Right.
My aunt had Tony's Pizzeria.
That's Josephine, right?
Yeah, Josephine.
I love her. Yeah.
They had that restaurant along, like I said, my grandfather had a restaurant, Italian Village. Originally, you know, that's when the family got started in the business. My uncle had Peppino's.
Uncle is also a Di Nunzzo?
No, that was my mom's sister's husband.
Who would be the what family?
Well, that was DeSantis, you know.
Okay, DeSantis, right.
Back in the day. They were from Italy also. Right. But, you know, so they had Italian restaurants, different businesses, I guess you could say, different restaurants. The Di Chicos were just family friends that my parents grew up with. So we're still family friends today.
They were Bullard boys along with you, right? Or were they
Memorial? I was both schools. I was at the Catholic school my whole life. I went to school with, you know, Victorio and Pat.
What Catholic school were you under, you know, before high school?
St. Anthony's.
St. Anthony's. We were OLV.
Oh, okay.
I mean, listen.
We started there.
So I have a whole Italian side, the Fotis family. I'm sorry, not the Fotis family, but the Camerons and the Demeras.
Oh, yeah, sure.
My uncle married them.
Guys.
Yeah, of course you did.
Right.
So we go there, and we're in Catholic school in 4th grade. I'm 4th grade, Peter's 8th grade. I had Sister James Edward, the toughest nun you could ever have, you know. And we were like, wow, man, these Catholics, they're rough, you know. So you did, what'd you say? Not Sacred Heart, but St. Anthony's. Yeah.
I actually went to OLV for 1st grade.
Did you really?
Yeah, I was there. My brother was there up to 4th grade.
What year did you graduate?
79.
Okay, so you're a little older than I am. So yeah.
But yeah, and then Memorial, and then graduated at Bullard. That's
was there competition amongst all these families? So you and the Di Chicos go to school together. Is there the competition where you would ask your friends, "Oh, what Italian restaurant do you like better?" Was there that competition amongst the families regarding that, or was it all friendly competition? Or
yeah, you know, there's always competition, I guess you could say, but really it was just it was family. It was almost like we were all one big family, even though we weren't related to everyone. We were related to some of them that had restaurants, but it was also different because some restaurants maybe did well because of an area, because of the size, different type restaurants. So it's not direct competition. Yeah, I guess you could say.
Well, and I think that's what I was getting at, is everybody thought that the families were all related, because you would say, oh yeah, go to Mike's, and they'd go, oh yeah, that's the uncle of so-and-so, you know, the so-and-so Di Chico, Enrico Di Chico, or whatever, one of those guys.
Exactly.
And they were separate families, but you guys treated each other as family, basically.
Right.
Did you guys get together when you guys were young? And
always. Family parties, weddings.
Big Italian weddings and all that kind of stuff?
Back then, families would just go door to door. You'd go visiting families.
That's
true.
And
on a Sunday, you get to put the whole family in a car, and you're going over somebody's house.
Oh yeah, I miss those days.
That was that's the way we all kind of just socialized.
Yeah.
You know, not necessarily going to restaurants. We do that occasionally, but most of the time was spent at families' houses.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah. We're on with Petter Di Nunzzo from Mike's Pizzeria. We'll be right back after this on the Marc Kapetan Show. This is KMJ. This is KMJ at KMJnow.com or wherever you stream. Hey, folks, I want you to check us out. KMJ has all of the shows that you hear on KMJ on their podcast section of KMJnow.com, or get the app, the KMJ Now app. You can also check out the Marc Kapetan show. Listen, we have great video. You're going to see the handsome Petter Di Nunzzo on the podcast, the video. What do you call it? Video cast, Marcelo? What do the kids call this thing? I don't know what they call it. Anyway, you can see the video of our show on YouTube, on Facebook, on True Social. I think we have it on. We're going to do all that kind of stuff. So like, subscribe, do whatever the kids say. Like, subscribe, comment, whatever you want. I appreciate if you do that for us. We're a bunch of old folks trying to be hip like the young kids.
Really?
sorry. Marcella's not old. Sorry, Marcella. We are on with Petter Di Nunzzo from Mike's Pizzeria, my go-to Italian restaurant. I love it. I love going there, seeing all the friends. Oh, okay, Peter, how about this one? Okay, yeah. Who are the guys that sit at the bar all the time? Well, this is going to sound bad. It's just, they don't sit at the bar. Long-haired guy, big, huge guys, tough guys.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Anyway, my buddy Paul Turner, we decide, you have a jukebox in the place, right? And we decide that we're going to, before we leave, we're going to put on Indigada Divida, or we're going to put on Kraftwerk Autobahn, like 15-minute songs, and just drive the crowd crazy. And then he decides, my buddy, the late Paul Turner, may his memory be eternal, he decides he's going to put on Wham! And, just the most wimpy 80s new wave stuff he could find. And I said, I'm going to top you on all of those. And I'm going to play in Mike's Pizzeria, in the bar with all these big tough guys that are sitting there at the bar. I put on the Weather Girls, It's Raining Men. And so now every time I go, and you would see these guys like bobbing their head like, oh, this is a nice beat to the music. Right? And then they would look like, wow, who the hell put this music on?
Right.
And now every time I go, I put on It's Raining Men, and you see these big guys look at me and they go, that's you, gosh darn it, putting on that music. So I love going there.
Yeah, that's kind of classic. People do that. Sometimes they'll just drive by and see who's there and play a certain song, because you can do it on your phone.
You can do it on your phone, right?
So they just, just for a joke, and they'll say, "I know he's around the neighborhood here somewhere," that kind of thing.
Oh, that's right. Oh, yeah, because you could do it as your. Oh, that's funny.
But yeah, a lot of regulars. You'll see him at the bar regularly.
You have a great crowd of regulars. They're nice people. They are, it's a great bar to hang out, and it's one of those where it's the closest thing to Cheers that I see here in Fresno, where you walk in and everybody is blinded by the light, but they also wave to you, hey, that kind of thing.
Exactly, yeah. A lot of regulars. In fact, it's almost like they're all family. They're all almost related. It feels like, in fact, I've had people comment on that, going, this is really like coming in here is like family. They all know each other. They know each other's history. They either grew up together, went to school together. Yeah. They meet down there. They have reunions. Even some of the regulars that we don't see for years and years will come back and revisit where they grew up.
Yeah.
Drive down the old neighborhoods, see their old school. And then, of course, stop at Mike's and get a calzone or a pizza or whatever their favorite, and have a drink or two. And it's
great
where they
calzones,
gather.
By the way. Great calzones. Your family and Tony's, great calzone. We had a competition amongst a bunch of the Italian restaurants for the best calzone, and Mike's and Tony's.
My dad and my aunt, brother and sister. So there
exactly
you have your family recipes is how you cook the same is because they're related, and that's where it comes from.
And I didn't mind saying that. I knew you wouldn't mind saying that Tony's and Mike's came in a tie basically for first place, because I knew it was family. Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of family and the generations of Italian, of your family that have run Mike's Pizzeria and all the other restaurants, your son, before I get to it, did you ever say to Dad, I don't want to be in the restaurant business. I have other aspirations. Or did you ever have other aspirations?
We thought about a lot of things like that. Sure, how to do it. We should do it different. Instead of doing it the way that he's done it, that was successful. why go in and change things? And that's kind of like what happened with my son and I. Is he had a different vision, wanted to do something different, and I wanted to do the traditional style that I was brought up with, learned, and was comfortable with.
And the different thing that he did is he opened up a food truck, right? Yeah. Which became really successful. I saw them all over the place. I think he still has the truck, or is he now in
he's in a brick and mortar now. Yeah, he's at Chestnut and Shepherd.
Right.
So he's got a takeout pizza place, Italian food. I shouldn't say pizza place, more of Italian restaurant, but it's fast casual.
Yeah, I saw that. A lot of basically the dishes are being served into tin takeout things, right? Yeah. Named it after the next generation.
His daughter, Roma.
Di Nunzzo's. Yeah.
Roma, uh-huh.
Yeah, it's called Roma's out there on Chestnut, and you said what, Alluvial?
Yeah. No, Chestnut and Shepherd.
Chestnut and Shepherd.
Yeah, Roma's Italian Kitchen.
Yeah.
Is what he's calling it, basically.
And so you're going to have now, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 generations, possibly, if Roma gets into it?
Possibly.
Do you look at her and sit there and say, geez, that was me. That was the young kid growing up in the restaurant business.
Yeah. And, what's interesting is I kind of got to experience all sides of it, from being a kid in my parents' restaurant, being raised, working for my parents, then being the owner and having my kids work with me or for me, and then going on and watching my son. It's like I saw all parts of that.
You were literally passing
evolution.
The torch. Yeah, literally passing the torch.
Yeah, so I experienced all those different sides of it. So it's not always that simple.
Did you look back? By the way, your other granddaughter, you have another granddaughter also?
Yeah, so my daughter, Alexandra, she has a daughter, yeah, Taylor.
Right, that's so Andrew and Alexandra youngest. Had Taylor and Roma. Or Roma and Taylor. Yeah. Do you look at Andrew, and when you're dealing with Andrew, do you sit there and go, is your dad still around, by the way?
Oh, yeah. Both my parents.
Do you ever go back to dad and mom and say, okay, I just had the same argument that we had back in the day, and I apologize to you because I realized, Dad, you were right, but you just couldn't convince me, and I had to learn it on my own.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what happens. And it's interesting. That's why I say, for me, I'm able to see both sides of it, because I experienced the part that my son was experiencing, at a young age.
Yeah.
And I was coming from an era that didn't have electronics. The computers weren't around yet.
Right.
So when that started, of course, I wanted to implement that as much as I could, and it just wasn't my parents' generation. Just like what you're talking about with your show, podcast, and all these different things that we have to now adapt to, because they're great tools.
Right. And I see your son. I was going through his little thing on Facebook and stuff like that, and I see he has tons of posts. He had that food truck, which you probably would have said, no, son, build a brick and mortar. Don't do a food truck. And he's made his name around town by driving that darn thing around the whole time.
Yeah.
And so, you were the naysayer.
He has a following from day one. As soon as he opened his doors, they were waiting for him to open. It took a minute, but he finally got it opened, and so far so good. He's been open for about 3 weeks, so it's really.
Oh, it's that new. Oh, I didn't know that.
New. Yeah, he's been working on it for the last 9 months.
If you're on that, by the way, I love the fact that an old thing that you had article said you guys were in the northwest of town. You're no longer in the northwest of town, but in the north of town is Roma's. So if you were looking for good Italian food, Mike's Pizzeria down there on Shields and West, Roma's up there on Chestnut. And does the family ever get together, for the holidays and stuff? And is there those fights and everything still as far as who's cooking it properly and not cooking it properly?
A lot of times we just try to stay away from that. It's easier.
You've learned.
And in fact, what I enjoy is just to sit back and let them cook.
Yeah.
And I don't have to worry about it. I get to enjoy it.
Absolutely.
And everyone. What's nice is that someone cooks differently too.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
you get a
little bit of variety.
Twist. Yeah, exactly.
All right. If you're looking for some great Italian food, Mike's Pizzeria or Roma's Pizzeria or Takeout Italian. This has been Petter Di Nunzzo on the Marc Kapetan Show. Peter, thanks so much for being here with us.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Loved it. All right. We'll see you at Mike's. This is the Marc Kapetan Show, and this has been KMJ. We'll see you next week. Thanks to my lovely producer, Marcella Solorio Taylor. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.